I want to talk to you about the suffocating weight of living in survival mode. If you've ever felt like your life is just a relentless calendar of bill-due dates, where every dollar that comes in already has 3 jobs assigned before it even hits your account, then you and I are on the same frequency right now. That feeling, that constant, low-level anxiety that makes you dread checking your bank balance. That is a vibrational state, and it's one that countless people are trapped in. I see this pattern repeated constantly, and it's the core of what held my friend Andre captive for years. He was the epitome of the modern struggle, a good person, hardworking, but perpetually running on a treadmill that was set too fast, leading nowhere but exhaustion. He had stopped dreaming. He wasn't focused on building a better future. He was simply focused on making it through the next 30 days. Every month was a fight, and that fight demanded all his energy, leaving none left over for vision or joy. When I first started talking to Andre about the law of attraction, he was immediately skeptical. He rolled his eyes, honestly. He told me, "Look, I've tried those cheesy affirmations. Standing in the mirror saying, 'I am rich,' when I'm staring at an eviction notice feels like I'm lying to myself. It feels empty and ridiculous." And that's such a common, genuine reaction, isn't it? We've all been there, trying a manifestation technique without understanding the engine that powers it, only to feel let down and more cynical than before. But here is the profound realization that changed everything for Andre, and the one I need you to grasp right now. Andre, like almost all of us, thought affirmations were useless, yet he was repeating them constantly. Powerful, highly charged affirmations, without ever realizing it. His affirmations weren't scripted. They were automatic internal declarations born of fear. When he saw a notification from the bank, he didn't think, "How can I solve this?" He thought, "I will never get out of this debt." When a friend proposed a weekend trip, his immediate internal dialogue was, "I can't afford that. Money is always tight for me." These weren't just stray thoughts. These were deep, consistent, energetic broadcasts. He was affirming scarcity, lack, limitation, and chronic struggle 24 hours a day. He was inadvertently directing the universal energy, setting his vibration to survival. And the universe, in its infinite perfection, was simply echoing that back to him, delivering circumstances that reinforced his belief that life was a struggle. This is the crucial disconnect. We spend 95% of our time subconsciously affirming our worst fears, and then we wonder why the 5% we spend repeating scripted positivity in the morning doesn't seem to work. The signal of fear is infinitely louder than the whisper of hope. I want you to pause right now and take a mental inventory of your own internal soundtrack. What are your automatic responses when the car breaks down, when the bill arrives, or when a promotion is missed? Are those internal sentences statements of inherent power and resourcefulness, or are they declarations of limitation? This is where your untapped power lies. Your current reality, whatever its scope, is not a prison sentence handed down by an external force. It is a meticulously crafted reflection of the dominant thoughts and feelings you have been projecting. You are far more powerful than you realize, because every thought you entertain, every deep-seated emotion you cling to, acts as a command to the universe. We need to shatter the illusion that limits are external, fixed circumstances. What if they aren't? What if every single financial or personal limit you perceive today is simply a boundary set by your own mind, reinforced by your own habitual thought patterns? I want you to indulge me for a moment. Close your eyes, if you can, and genuinely contemplate this. What would your life look like right now, this week, this month, if you had absolutely no limits? Not just financial, but limits on your confidence, your energy, and your belief in your own deservingness? Imagine the ease, the flow, the opportunity. Hold that image firmly, because that potential version of you is not some fairy tale. It is the person waiting for the scarcity armor to be removed. Andre began his transformation the moment he recognized that he wasn't fighting the outside world. He was fighting his own mind, and that realization, that shift in perspective, is the starting point for every true awakening. Now that we've recognized the profound responsibility we carry for our internal broadcasts, let's pull back the curtain and truly understand the mechanism at work here. This isn't magic. This is universal law, as reliable as gravity or the tide, and it's the second step in moving from merely surviving to absolutely thriving. We call it the law of attraction, and I want to explain it using simple, tangible concepts. At its most fundamental, the universe operates on vibration and frequency. Everything, your desk, your cup of coffee, your thoughts, and especially your emotions, is vibrating energy. And the core principle is beautifully simple, like attracts like. Your dominant vibration acts like a powerful magnet, pulling experiences, people, and circumstances into your life that are a vibrational match to what you are sending out. Think of your mind not as a passive recorder, but as a high-powered radio transmitter. If your dominant signal is tuned to the frequency of lack, thoughts of debt, stress, difficulty, and frustration, then the universe cannot possibly send you signals tuned to abundance, ease, and opportunity. It can only respond in kind. If you constantly broadcast anxiety about paying a bill, the universe responds by creating more situations that give you cause for anxiety. It doesn't discriminate, it just reflects. Andre finally grasped this when he realized his life was a perfect sonic reflection of his anxiety. He wasn't attracting the specific dollar amount of debt. He was attracting the feeling of being financially cornered, and the circumstances followed to justify that feeling. Let me give you a useful analogy. Imagine you are trying to bake a cake. You spend hours meticulously mixing the ingredients, setting the oven, and following the recipe perfectly. But halfway through, you realize you substituted salt for sugar. You can stand there and shout at the oven all you want. You can affirm, "This cake is sweet. This cake is perfect." But the fundamental ingredient, the initial vibration, was wrong. The cake will taste salty. Our life experiences are the cake. If the fundamental ingredients, our dominant beliefs and emotions, are sourced from scarcity, the results will always be seasoned with struggle. The universal principle is not punitive, it's purely reciprocal. And this leads to the most critical component. Emotion is the rocket fuel of attraction. A simple thought, like, "I want more money," is weak. It's like a low-power, short-range transmission. But a thought imbued with deep, authentic feeling, such as the feeling of immense relief and security that comes with financial freedom, that is a massive, high-wattage broadcast that cannot be ignored. When Andre was trying those early, empty affirmations, they failed because they lacked emotional resonance. He was saying, "I am rich," but his body was vibrating with the fear of poverty. He was sending two conflicting signals, a weak, mental wish, and a powerful, energetic declaration of dread. The dread always wins. So, the universal principle is this. You attract not what you want, but what you are, what you consistently feel, believe, and expect. If you expect struggle, you prepare for struggle, and you attract the circumstances that necessitate struggle. If you cultivate a genuine feeling of gratitude for the resources you do have, you begin to vibrate on the frequency of sufficiency, paving the way for more than enough. I want you to take a moment and genuinely look back over the last few years of your life. Are you beginning to see how your past thought patterns, the chronic worry, the cynicism, the self-limiting declarations, might have meticulously shaped the exact circumstances you find yourself in today? Don't judge yourself for it. Simply observe. Recognizing this pattern is the moment we stop being victims of circumstance and start becoming conscious architects of our future. This awareness is step 2, and now that we know how the system works, it is time to dismantle the obstacles we unknowingly built. We are now stepping into the practical phase, the active disassembly of the old limitations that are still clinging to your vibrational field. Knowing the universal law is one thing. Enacting change requires courage to face the deeply embedded programming we carry. These are the chains of scarcity, those invisible mental handcuffs that keep you playing small, repeating the cycle of struggle. These are the limiting beliefs about money, success, and, most importantly, your own inherent worth. Where do they come from? They are inherited scripts, often absorbed in childhood. Things like, "We aren't rich enough for that," "Money is the root of all evil," or "You have to work until you bleed to earn a decent living." These are not facts. They are merely learned associations, repeated so often they've become deeply rooted tenets of your subconscious mind. They function like anti-manifestation codes, actively sabotaging any effort you make toward abundance. The real shift happens when you identify these specific codes and deliberately dismantle them. I encourage you to begin a scarcity audit. Take a piece of paper and dedicate some time to writing down every negative belief you hold about money. What is your automatic reaction when a friend unexpectedly finds great success? Is it jealousy or is it genuine joy? If your first thought is, well, they just got lucky, that would never happen to me, that is a limiting belief. If you instinctively feel shame when spending money on yourself, that is a limiting belief rooted in a feeling of unworthiness. When Andre did his audit, he realized his core belief was, I am destined to always live paycheck to paycheck. It was a generational script passed down from his parents who also struggled. We didn't try to plaster over it with empty promises. Instead, we addressed the specific fear with a specific, emotionally resonant counterstatement. He learned to reframe. For example, when the fear thought popped up, I can't afford this dinner out. Instead of resisting or fighting the thought, he'd acknowledge it and immediately counter with a truth rooted in gratitude. I am grateful for the money I have right now, and I trust that new resources are always flowing to me with ease. The power is in the replacement, not the denial. You are recognizing the old script and deliberately interrupting the pattern with a new, empowering, and high-vibrational truth. The reason this works so much better than generic affirmations is that you are dissolving the emotional charge attached to the fear. You are turning the magnet away from lack. But here is the absolute secret that made Andre's switch effective. His new affirmations were always laced with genuine gratitude. You cannot be in a state of gratitude and a state of scarcity simultaneously. They occupy opposing frequencies. When Andre practiced affirmations of prosperity, he was instructed to first find 3 things he was genuinely thankful for right now. Even if it was just the roof over his head, the food in his fridge, or the health to get out of bed. By starting with gratitude, he instantly elevated his emotional state. Then, when he spoke the affirmation, I am a magnet for financial prosperity and opportunities, he wasn't saying it from a place of desperate want, but from a foundational feeling of security and sufficiency. That feeling, the authentic emotion of sufficiency, is what the universe responds to. This active rewiring takes consistency, but it is the key to escaping the survival loop. Every time you consciously choose a thought of abundance over a thought of lack, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways for prosperity. This is how you literally rewire your brain for wealth. This is the moment to commit to breaking those chains. I want to see your commitment. In the comments below, tell me one limiting belief about money or success that you are ready to release right now. Name it, claim it, and let it go. This public declaration is a powerful act of energetic transformation, marking your commitment to step fully into your abundance. Now that we've cleared the debris of scarcity and understood the foundational laws of the universe, it's time to get down to the brass tacks, the actual method of manifesting specific goals, especially financial freedom. This is where we transition from simply believing in abundance to actively co-creating it with focused intention and deep emotion. I break this down into 3 simple, yet profound, steps that Andre used to move from paycheck to paycheck anxiety to true financial security. Andre's biggest breakthrough came when he started incorporating these 3 steps into a structured, daily, vibrational routine. This wasn't just mental work. This was physical and emotional retraining. Every morning, before checking his phone, he would do his gratitude list, visualize his fulfilled financial goals for 10 minutes, and anchor those feelings with specific, powerful affirmations focused on prosperity and flow. He committed to this routine for 90 days, no exceptions. The consistency solidified the new frequency. I want you to make a promise to yourself right now. If this message is resonating with you, if you feel that internal nudge that this is the key you've been searching for, then invest in your own growth. Liking this video and subscribing to this channel isn't just about supporting me. It's an act of deep commitment to your new life. It's a visible, energetic declaration to the universe that you are ready to receive this knowledge and ready to step fully into your power. Treat this engagement as your first inspired action toward genuine, lasting prosperity. Click that button now, and let's seal this commitment to a life of abundance. We have moved through the awakening, understood the principles, cleared the limiting beliefs, and now we are equipped with the manifestation toolkit. But I need to be completely honest with you. The journey from desire to reality is rarely a straight line. The moment you start manifesting powerfully, the universe often tests your commitment. This is the stage where most people quit, navigating the treacherous territory of doubt, impatience, and the perceived lack of immediate results. I call this the middle ground, and understanding how to navigate it is the difference between a true transformation and falling back into the scarcity loop. The biggest enemy in the middle ground is doubt. Doubt is simply the old, familiar frequency trying to pull you back. It's that little voice that whispers, "See? Nothing happened. This is silly. You wasted your time." This is a perfectly normal human reaction, especially when the circumstances you are trying to change have been deeply entrenched for years. When Andre started his routine, he didn't immediately get a new job or a massive windfall. He had 2 months where things felt exactly the same, maybe even slightly worse as old debt statements seemed to resurface. That's when the doubt hit hard. My strategy for him, and for you, is to have a doubt deflection strategy. You combat doubt not by fighting it, but by gathering evidence of your effectiveness. Keep a success journal. Write down every single small win, no matter how insignificant it seems. The unexpected refund, the great parking space that magically appeared, the random kindness from a stranger, the discount code that arrived just when you needed it. These are your breadcrumbs, proof that the universe is actively responding to your new, higher vibration. When doubt creeps in, you don't argue with it. You simply open your journal and say, "The evidence proves otherwise." The universe is listening. For Andre, his desired job manifestation felt slow, but one Saturday, he felt an undeniable urge to completely rewrite his professional summary on LinkedIn, something he'd put off for months. It wasn't logical. It was the weekend. He was tired, but the inspiration was strong. He followed that subtle nudge. He wasn't forcing a solution. He was flowing with the energy. Within 48 hours, an old contact saw the newly optimized profile and reached out with an offer for an incredible contract role that matched his desired salary, his desired autonomy, and his desire for meaningful work, all the specific details he had been visualizing. The universe often delivers not through a large, dramatic event, but through a sequence of small, perfectly timed actions and encounters. Your job is to stay in that high vibrational state so that when the opportunity knocks, you are ready to open the door rather than being too distracted by worry to hear it. This requires patience, not passive waiting, but the deep, secure patience that comes from knowing the seed is planted and the harvest is inevitable, provided you maintain the environment for growth. We must also address the negative results. Sometimes, when you start vibrating higher, things that no longer serve you must be cleared out. This might mean a job ending, a toxic friendship dissolving, or an unexpected expense forcing you to confront an old pattern. Don't view these clearings as setbacks. View them as the universe rearranging the furniture to make room for the prosperity you have requested. Trust the process, celebrate the small victories, deflect the doubt, and always follow that quiet, inner voice of inspiration. This is a continuous journey of self-mastery, not a race. Tell me, how do you personally stay motivated when those moments of doubt try to creep back into your manifestation practice? Share your best tips in the comments, and let's support each other in maintaining this powerful forward momentum. We have arrived at the final, most glorious phase of this journey, fully embracing a life of prosperity and flow. You have gone from unknowingly affirming a life of lack to consciously commanding a life of abundance. You have moved from a state of anxious survival to a position of powerful, intentional creation. This final part is about cementing this new reality, integrating the lessons, and living every day from a place of sufficiency, not desire. Let's quickly summarize the transformative path we've walked together. First, we recognize that your inner dialogue is your most powerful affirmation engine. Second, we understood that the universe is a perfect reflector, matching your dominant emotion and frequency. Third, we aggressively identified and released the scarcity scripts that held you captive. Fourth, we learned to manifest with clarity, emotional immersion, and trust, establishing a powerful daily vibrational routine. Finally, we committed to navigating the inevitable moments of doubt with evidence of success and taking inspired action, trusting the perfect timing of the universe. Andre's life today is not perfect. No one's is, but it is defined by peace and flow, not anxiety and struggle. He still has challenges, but he now approaches them from a place of inherent resourcefulness, not desperation. He doesn't obsessively check his bank account because he trusts the flow of money into his life. He found that the manifestation of financial prosperity was merely the gateway to realizing his true abundance, which is measured in peace of mind, time freedom, and the ability to give generously. When you operate from a frequency of sufficiency, abundance ceases to be something you chase and becomes the natural atmosphere you breathe. A life of prosperity is not just about having more money. It's about eliminating the feeling of need. It means feeling secure and resourceful regardless of the external circumstances. It means moving through your day with a calm certainty that you are provided for, that opportunities are attracted to you, and that your energy is always high enough to receive them. This is the difference between living in fear of the future and living in joyful expectation of the amazing things that are always unfolding for you. Your new beginning starts right now. Do not treat this video or these principles as a temporary fix. Treat them as the operating manual for your new reality. Your commitment to maintaining your vibrational hygiene, the daily routine of gratitude, visualization, and positive affirmation, is the non-negotiable insurance policy on your prosperity. The work doesn't stop once the first manifestation arrives. That is just proof that the system works. True mastery is making this high vibrational state your permanent baseline. You are the architect, the broadcaster, and the receiver. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. I want you to step fully into that role today. You are now equipped with the knowledge to consciously create wealth, joy, and profound fulfillment in your life. Don't keep this powerful frequency to yourself. The law of attraction works best when we operate from a place of overflow and generosity. If this script has transformed your perspective or inspired you to change your life, I urge you to share this message with 3 people you love, 3 people who are also struggling in that survival mode. By spreading the message of prosperity, you amplify the abundance in your own life. Thank you for walking this path with me. Go out there and radiate the wealth that you are. I look forward to seeing the incredible manifestations you bring into existence. We've established the rhythm of creation, but sustaining that high-frequency current requires more than simply adjusting thought patterns. It demands active participation in the economy of energy exchange. I have observed something crucial in the lives of individuals who achieve and maintain significant wealth. Their prosperity is never a stagnant pool. It is a continuously moving, roaring river. Abundance, fundamentally, is defined by circulation, the speed and volume of energetic exchange that flows both to and through a person. Consequently, the most common blockage I encounter in those seeking lasting financial elevation is not a deficiency in incoming ideas or opportunities, but a profound reluctance to facilitate the necessary outflow. This resistance often manifests physically, reflecting an internal fear that if something leaves our sphere, it can never be replaced. Consider your current domestic or professional surroundings. If every filing cabinet is wedged shut, if your storage spaces are crammed with items you neither use nor genuinely appreciate, you are broadcasting a powerful, material signal of no vacancy. We must intentionally create an energetic vacuum for new, superior circumstances, resources, and possessions to occupy. Picture trying to introduce fresh, cool water into a vessel already filled to the brim with stale, heavy dregs. The pure water merely overflows and is wasted. The operative principle is clear. To accommodate a grand influx, a major energetic and physical clearance must first take place. I learned this lesson acutely while guiding my client, Clara, who passionately desired a 6-figure consulting contract, yet seemed inexplicably stalled. Her intention was loud, but her environment was screaming scarcity. Her office desk was a monument to unfinished business and procrastination, a dense fortress built of past anxieties and unfiled invoices. We began her transformation not with her financials, but with her physical reality. When she finally committed to clearing out 3 enormous bins of documentation, releasing outdated tax statements, purging obsolete technology, and giving away clothes she hadn't worn in years, a remarkable internal shift occurred. That tangible act of material release, that acknowledgement that she was moving forward and did not need the anchors of the past, created an immediate, palpable void. Within 1 week of that monumental purge, the high-value contract she had been visualizing for months and simultaneously blocking with clutter arrived perfectly timed and fully executed. It wasn't chance. It was vibrational synchronization resulting from the law of vacuum being honored. Building on this recognition of material flow, there is a profound, often overlooked dimension to true circulation: intentional generosity. I'm referring here to the conscious decision to actively circulate wealth and valuable time, especially when your ledger feels tight. This practice fundamentally alters the relationship one holds with money, shifting it from a frighteningly scarce resource to an endless, reliable current. When we give, be it time, money, or resources, we are declaring an absolute trust, affirming, "I possess so much, I can effortlessly afford to share." This feeling of being the secure source, rather than merely the needy recipient, represents the highest vibrational state of prosperity consciousness imaginable. This generosity must, importantly, be practiced without the transactional expectation of direct return. That is where the true energetic magic is ignited. It becomes a non-negotiable act of profound self-validation. The moment we focus exclusively on the joy inherent in the exchange, the feeling of relief or expansion we impart to another, we deeply reinforce our identity as an eternally secure, abundant individual. This isn't complex calculation. It's simply mirroring the infinite resourcefulness of existence itself. Consequently, the flow returns amplified, not due to a rigid cosmic ledger, but because our internal vibration has become aligned with infinite supply. This deep, secure knowing solidifies the foundation of all sustained wealth creation. I believe many people stumble not in setting their powerful intentions, but in navigating the vast, often lonely stretch between declaration and realization. This intermediary period, dense with uncertainty, is where the old wiring fights hardest. We mistake doubt for an external reality check, yet fundamentally, doubt often stems from an identity crisis, a deeply rooted allegiance to a smaller, safer version of ourselves. I observed this vividly in my own journey. Whenever a major breakthrough felt imminent, I'd be hit with an acute, often crippling fear that had nothing to do with market conditions or skill sets. It was a visceral resistance to shedding the familiar skin of my struggling former self. That heavy cloak of predictability, though stifling, had become comfortable. Achieving enormous success meant becoming a stranger to that old self, and that psychological leap is, ironically, far scarier than managing debt. Crucially, sustaining momentum means we must refine our understanding of inspired action. It rarely arrives as a booming command from the heavens. Rather, it surfaces as subtle, quiet indications within our energetic field, a shift in mood, a sudden clarity about a conversation you should initiate, or an inexplicable draw toward a book or a geographical location. Consider how this applies when you face a seemingly mundane task, such as updating your professional bio. If contemplating the task brings a slight, positive vibration, a flicker of enthusiasm, that is the signal. Conversely, if an opportunity that looks great on paper feels heavy or causes an internal, sinking sensation, that is equally powerful guidance directing you to retreat. The highest form of receiving is learning to interpret these emotional metrics. Furthermore, we must address the pacing mechanism of manifestation. Impatience is merely a symptom of faulty calibration. It arises because we are measuring the distance to our goal using a calendar rather than a frequency meter. Complex manifestations, like shifting an entire financial reality, require an incubation period, a necessary gestation time for the physical elements to coalesce. When my mentee, Sarah, was agonizing over the delay in her desired contract closing, I shifted her focus. I asked her to stop seeking external proof and, instead, focus on raising her internal certainty quotient. The metric ceased to be, "When will the call come?" and became, "How certain am I right now that the delivery is inevitable?" By contrast, when we surrender the frantic need for immediate results and settle into active, focused expectation, we align with the natural, unhurried rhythm of creation. This is where patience transforms from a passive virtue into a powerful, high-vibrational state of trust. It is the knowing that the seed has been planted, and the forces of life are already at work beneath the surface, meticulously orchestrating the delivery system. The challenge is maintaining that expectation even when the tangible evidence is lagging. Another crucial layer is recognizing the difference between mere activity and true inspired movement. Activity is often fear-based motion, a flurry of low-vibrational tasks undertaken to mask anxiety. We send 50 generic resumes hoping one sticks. Inspired movement, however, is laser-focused. It is the single, non-obvious action that bypasses the need for 50 generic inputs. I remember feeling a pull to drive across town for an exhibition I wasn't particularly interested in. Logic dictated staying home to work, but I followed the internal nudge. That evening, I met an individual who ultimately introduced me to my most influential business partner, someone whose existence I hadn't even conceived of moments before. Mastery lies in honoring those faint, non-logical impulses above the clamorous demands of the analytical mind. Maintaining this delicate balance is the daily practice that guarantees we stay on the accelerated path to abundance. There is a phase in the manifestation cycle that I call the vibrational trough, a silent, demanding period where the new reality is fully cooked on the inside, yet remains invisible on the outside. This waiting room, often extending weeks or months past what feels reasonable, is where most people unconsciously abandon powerful intentions. I watched my client, Mark, stumble here. Mark had flawlessly executed his clarity work, meticulously detailed his desire for a lucrative corporate acquisition, and yet, 6 months in, the landscape remained barren. He was performing the actions, but his energy was collapsing into what I identified as symptomatic action, doing busy work just to feel productive, fueled by fear, not faith. What Mark needed, and what we all need in this interim period, is the development of robust energetic insulation. As your frequency rises, you become acutely sensitive to the lower vibrations of the world around you, especially the feedback loop from skeptical friends or family. They love you, certainly, but their limited beliefs function like static, attempting to pull your signal back down to their level of perceived possibility. I advised Mark to impose an informational fast, severely limiting discussions about his grand vision to only those individuals who could actively hold a positive, expectant space for his success. He learned to deflect cynicism not with argument, but with polite, firm distance, effectively creating a sanctuary for his budding belief. Building on this principle, sustaining momentum requires an entirely novel perspective on setbacks. We must stop viewing apparent failure, the missed deadline, the rejected proposal, the unexpected expenditure, as evidence of personal ineptitude or cosmic opposition. Instead, consider these moments as vital, high-contrast feedback signals. When a pilot deviates from the projected flight path, the deviation isn't failure. It's essential data informing a necessary course correction. The universe operates on contrast. Often, a small financial setback arrives precisely to highlight an unconscious habit or a lurking fear that needs eradicating before the larger manifestation can safely be delivered. By welcoming these moments not as obstacles, but as intelligent guidance, we shift our entire emotional response from reaction to proactive investigation. Consequently, the focus shifts from merely managing thoughts to physically anchoring the high-frequency state. Mental effort alone is unsustainable. Sustained prosperity demands neurosomatic alignment. Your body must become a physical receptor capable of holding the energy of wealth and ease. If your spine is chronically hunched in a posture of defeat, or if your physical energy is drained by poor habits, the body broadcasts scarcity regardless of the affirmations flowing through your mind. I introduced Mark to intense, disciplined breathwork routines, specifically designed to shift his nervous system out of the fight-or-flight state characteristic of survival mode. This deep, controlled breathing physically resets the equilibrium, allowing the feeling of pre-fulfillment certainty to permeate cellular memory, not just surface thought. This practice of integrating certainty into the physical body generates a state of unshakable expectation. This isn't blind hope. It is the confident assurance of a scientist who has run the experiment thousands of times and knows the result is guaranteed, merely waiting for the reagents to finish reacting. To maintain this potent expectation, I challenge you to introduce an entirely new accountability mechanism, the evidence log. This differs from a simple success journal in that you log every single opportunity, connection, or resource that suddenly appears, even if you don't use it. The goal is simply to quantify the sheer volume of supporting logistics that are being deployed on your behalf. Seeing that tangible proof of active support dismantles doubt by overpowering the skeptical mind with undeniable, irrefutable data points, transforming patience into an empowered watchfulness. We've successfully navigated past the initial scarcity programming. Yet, many people collide head-on with an invisible psychological barrier right when their goals are within reach. I call this the familiarity trap. It's an insidious form of self-sabotage, often triggered not by fear of failure, but by a deep-seated terror of success itself. My client, Victor, experienced this vividly. After months of focused visualization and consistently raising his energetic output, he secured a major funding meeting, the gathering that represented 90% of his financial target. Instead of showing up with the certainty he'd cultivated, Victor subconsciously deployed a defensive mechanism. He arrived late, his presentation was disorganized, and he spent the entire meeting minimizing his achievements. Why? Because the vibration of his desired outcome exceeded the tolerance level of his current identity. His subconscious mind, dedicated fiercely to keeping him in the known, safe zone of almost successful, generated powerful internal resistance to push the massive win away. He was not manifesting the acquisition. He was manifesting the feeling of almost getting it, because that feeling, the stress of the chase, was familiar and known. To counteract this gravitational pull toward the past, we must engage in radical, preemptive identity work. We must ask, what specific, mundane activity would someone consistently do if they already possess the immense prosperity I seek? Do they anxiously argue about small fees? Do they hoard every minute of energy? Conversely, a truly abundant mindset knows that time, energy, and resources are expansive. This implies the required action is often subtraction, not addition, shedding the limiting behaviors of the person who lacks. Furthermore, inspired action during this final, delicate phase takes on a higher, more demanding form. It transforms from following a soft nudge to executing an act of profound, unwavering faith. It necessitates movement before the logistics are confirmed, demanding a leap of trust into the fog. My personal mentor taught me years ago that true inspired action feels less like a choice and more like an obligation. A certainty so strong it compels immediate, decisive movement, even when logic argues fiercely against it. Another crucial layer is recognizing the principle of vibrational inertia. The faster you are moving toward your goal, the greater the force required to slow you down. If you allow complacency or temporary confusion to introduce drag, the resistance you shed months ago can quickly catch up. Maintaining momentum requires actively engaging with high vibrational content, choosing expansive conversations, and deliberately placing yourself in environments that mirror the wealth you claim. This is not effort. It is continuous energetic optimization. Consequently, the final, most sophisticated skill developed on this path is reliance solely on internal validation. We shed the constant need to scan the horizon for external signals confirming our progress. I encourage you to begin measuring personal success not by the size of the next paycheck, but by the volume of internal peace maintained despite external turbulence. Sustaining an elevated emotional state, even amidst perceived chaos, demonstrates genuine mastery. Share with me, what is one small, successful habit you refuse to surrender, even when things feel uncertain? Let us use our collective commitment to strengthen this foundation of internal resilience. Consequently, this new state demands we replace effort with ease as the primary indicator of effectiveness. If a venture requires grinding, pushing, or the chronic depletion of our internal reserves, it is fundamentally misaligned with the cosmic current we have established. I learned to measure the success of a new project not by its gross revenue, but by the lightness and fluidity of its execution. If a deal felt like merely floating downstream, guided by an invisible current, it was consecrated. If it felt like dragging a weighty barge upstream, it was swiftly abandoned, irrespective of the potential payoff. Another crucial layer is realizing that when we operate at this high frequency, Our manifested intentions acquire an element of enduring significance. They are established with such pure, resonant energy that they continue to thrive, expand, and generate positive outcomes long after our direct, focused involvement ceases. Building on this, consider the profound responsibility that accompanies this enduring, effortless flow. It is imperative that this expansive perspective isn't internalized as competitive advantage, but as demonstrable proof of possibility for all. We must now become the constant testimonial to the transformative power of consciousness in action. This is where your new journey solidifies, not through repetitive mental labor, but through every single moment of authentic ease, deep generosity, and pervasive peace that you experience and model. Your life itself becomes the evidence that absolutely shatters the old world's narrative of unrelenting struggle for everyone you encounter. It's time to live the legacy of creation you were born for. Reflecting on this profound journey so far, I find myself thinking less about specific techniques and more about the fundamental change in internal architecture we have collectively engineered. We began in a psychological landscape often obscured by a heavy, relentless drizzle, a pervasive dampness that seeped into every expectation, defining limitations before we even dared to formulate a wish. That sensation of continuously fighting uphill, exhausting oneself simply to stay upright against an unseen current, is precisely the anchor that held so many of us in place. But look at the ground we have covered. Through a persistent, meticulous practice of internal realignment, we haven't just polished the lens through which we view reality. We have fundamentally replaced the projector itself. My own experience moving through these phases taught me that the true victory isn't securing the external prize, but witnessing the instantaneous, spontaneous evaporation of internal resistance. Where once there was a reflexive tightening, a skeptical flinch, there is now an oceanic calm. We traded the hurried, frantic energy of chasing for the deep, resonant certainty of knowing that what is destined for us is already being marshaled into place. This shift from pursuit to reception is the core of true flow. Imagine crossing a high mountain pass. For a long time, the path is obscured by a dense, suffocating fog, forcing you to move tentatively, placing each foot with desperate caution. The work we have accomplished together, the meticulous identification of mental debris, the commitment to vibrational integrity, is akin to the sun finally breaking through that cloud ceiling. Suddenly, the terrain unfolds before you, vast and inevitable. You realize the mountain was never blocking your way. It was merely your perception that was opaque. Now, the descent is not a struggle of will, but a smooth glide, propelled by the accumulated kinetic energy of all the preparatory steps. This newfound perspective is permanent. This transformation is visible not only in the dramatic shifts in circumstance, but in the subtle, daily luxuries of emotional ease. We no longer treat financial transactions as moments of fear, but as simple, expected exchanges of energy. We have learned to recognize that every single resource we require, be it time, inspiration, or capital, is merely awaiting our energetic signal to converge. The previous scarcity was a direct consequence of a narrow focus. The current abundance is simply the wide-angle view, the holistic acknowledgement of endless supply. This brings us to a crucial inflection point. Achieving this level of conscious creation is not the destination. It is merely the secure staging ground for the next level of expansive living. We stand at the threshold of transforming this newfound personal prosperity into something vast, sustained, and perpetually self-renewing. The conversation now shifts from getting what we want to embodying the stewardship required to maintain and amplify this powerful current. The question is no longer, can I make this happen? But what kind of world can I build now that my creative capacity is limitless? What remains is the final, compelling instruction on how to embed this flow so deeply that it becomes the immutable legacy of our new existence. When I look back on where we started, that tight, frustrating space of feeling perpetually short, I see now that the entire struggle was merely a powerful redirection. It was not a judgment on our worth, but a loud, undeniable instruction to turn our attention inward. The core epiphany we share is that prosperity was never a treasure to be hunted outside of ourselves. It was always the silent, powerful engine running within. We spent so much energy fighting the visible surface reality, mistaking the weight for the vessel itself. The true victory, the one that guarantees permanence, is the successful dismantling of that internal scarcity guard, the anxious warden we unknowingly placed at the gates of our possibility. We have moved beyond the necessity of merely affirming and are now operating from a place of fact. We understand that all resources exist as potential energy, ready to coalesce around a clear, steady signal. Our previous state was simply a miscalibration, a powerful transmitter broadcasting the frequency of lack. What we have achieved together is the complete restructuring of that broadcast. It is the realization that true wealth is not the accumulation of dollars, but the complete liberation from the anxiety that accompanies the chase. It is the achieved mastery of emotional equilibrium, ensuring that the feeling of security precedes the physical proof. This quietude, this unshakable inner peace, is the definitive evidence that the cosmic current has aligned perfectly with our deepest desire. The lasting implication of this work is the radical shift from transactional living to intentional creation. We no longer wait for permission or external validation to spend time, deploy capital, or initiate ambitious projects. We act from the identity of the person who is already abundantly supplied. We commit to a flow that is defined by ease, knowing that effort is merely the residue of old resistance. If an endeavor demands grinding and struggling, it signals misalignment. We now possess the clarity to pivot immediately, trusting that our greatest achievements will always feel like sailing with a strong, predictable tailwind. This is the difference between surviving an existence and commanding an experience. Our shared journey has transformed us from hesitant participants into sovereign designers. We have learned to use gratitude not as a polite obligation, but as a sophisticated tuning fork, instantly elevating our frequency to that of fulfillment. We recognize that the most courageous act is not fighting the external world, but trusting the internal guidance that compels us toward massive, yet effortless, action. I encourage us to hold this newly realized truth sacred. This vibrant, expansive feeling we cultivated, this sense of having access to infinite supply, must become the non-negotiable standard of operation. Going forward, the work is simply to maintain the fidelity of this signal. Let us treat every moment of worry, every creeping shadow of doubt, not as a crisis, but as a temporary dip in power, quickly rectified by returning to the core feeling of profound sufficiency. We are no longer victims of circumstance. We are living, breathing proof of the creative power of consciousness. Carry this sense of effortless flow into every interaction. Let our lives be the silent, powerful instruction manual for all those still searching. The abundance we craved is here, now, flowing through us and extending outward, and it will never be exhausted.